Ladies and gentlemen,
will you take your seats, please?
Here we go.
There's the kickoff.
Last week didn't go so well for the Marshall Thundering Herd, losing on the road to Georgia State 41-24. The Herd is now 4-2 after suffering back-to-back losses and has a quick turnaround for a nationally televised Thursday night showdown with the preseason pick to win the Sun Belt, James Madison. The Dukes come into the contest 6-0 and undefeated in league play with 3-0 mark. But James Madison coach Curt Cignetti is warning anyone that will listen that trouble awaits the Dukes in Huntington.
You know, Marshall, in my mind, this is a trap game. You guys like that term, trap game? I know you do. This is a trap game. Last year, they came here, had lost 3 out of 4, and from the middle of the second quarter on, completely dominated us, completely. They've lost 2 in a row after a fast start, so I know they're not pleased about that. And I'm sure they're eager to get back on track in front of their home crowd.
Marshall football coach Charles Huff said Cignetti knows best how to motivate his team, but offered a few suggestions for the Dukes head coach.
He knows his team, so he knows what he needs to do to motivate his team or to remind his team or whatever it may be. If he saw our injury report and came to practice, he may take the day off. I said yesterday he probably should take him to get ice cream or go see Barbie at the movies because they probably could use the extra days off. But again, in his mind, he knows what he sees on film. He knows what his team is able to do. He knows where his team, every team is in a different area of the journey. You know, we're all in week whatever, but we're all in different areas of the journey. They've had different experiences. They've had different adversity. They've had different successes. They've got different leadership. They've got a different culture. So he knows what they need to do. Someone will have to give me the definition of a trap game. To me, we don't look at it that way. We try to go 1-0 every week. That's where the competitive humility comes in for us.
James Madison comes into the game averaging 34.5 points per contest while managing 244.5 yards in the air and 154.5 yards on the ground, forcing Marshall to play balanced on defense.
JMU does a really good job of running and throwing and forcing you to kind of play both. They're balanced. And that's the challenging part. If you're playing a team that throws it, 90% of the time, you can kind of prepare and put some things in place. But a team like JMU, they do a really good job of balance. They take advantage of what you give them.
Marshall linebacker Owen Porter sees a team that plays well in all 3 phases of the game.
They're a good football team. They play well, offense, defense, and special teams. You don't have a bad area. Good quarterback. Good offensive line.
James Madison quarterback Jordan McLeod is 12th in the nation with a 168.1 pass efficiency rating with 14 passing touchdowns. He's impressive, but Coach Huff is more impressed with the system than the signal caller.
McLeod does a really good job in their system. I think he knows their system. So what happens is when he gets in games, if the picture changes defensively or if something happens, he knows right where to go to. Do I hand it off? Do I pull it? Do I go to the first read, second read, third read? Again, they're going to run their system. They're not trying to say, okay, well, these plays work against this defense, and then you get in the game and they don't run that defense. They're saying our plays have answers versus whatever you do. Our quarterback, our running back, our O-line, our receivers, we just have to get to those answers. And because they keep that mentality, they can get to those answers quicker, if that makes sense. I think you start to see, as the games go on, McLeod gets a lot more comfortable. As the season goes on, he's gotten a lot more comfortable. The system that they run is the same. You see the same plays every week, different formation, different alignment, whatever it may be, different area of the field. But they run the same system. They're trying to do the same things to give him the comfort, to give the receivers the comfort, the running backs, and then obviously the O-line.
On defense, the Thundering Herd will face a James Madison unit that is second in the country in sacks, tied for 4th with interceptions at 10, and tied for 6th in the country in block kicks at 2.
They're sound, So they don't, some teams that you play by week, they change and they come up with something a little different to kind of stop what you do, which gives you the opportunity to kind of do something else. JMU does what they do. And because of that, they do it well. They do their job very well because they don't try to scheme of the week or they don't try to adjust because, you have a good running back or you have a good receiver. They play sound. And what it allows them to do is it allows them to adjust everything out that they see because they know their system. It's adjusting off of what's the install say, or what does the system say when number 2 bangs out or number 2's off the ball. which allows them to play with a lot more consistency, if that makes sense. If you try to do something just for this week, well, you only get so many reps at it. Well, they've had a ton of reps and a ton of practice at doing and playing their system really well.
James Madison is also first in the country in both run defense, giving up only 42.8 yards a game, and tackles for loss per game at 9.7 yards. They are a talented unit led by Jalen Green and Mikhail Kamara, two of the top defenders nationally, with a host of others in the top 25 in various categories. Marshall center Logan Osborne thinks that opponents are leery to challenge James Madison on the ground, but he thinks the Herd can find success against the Dukes.
I think it's just simply teams are just not trying to run the ball on them. Teams are looking at their back end, thinking they have some advantage there. I think their back end's pretty good, but teams can run the ball on them, I think. They do have a great front seven, probably the best front seven we're going to see all year. They're right there with NC State. They play complementary football. If they're supposed to be in the B gap, they're going to be in the B gap. If they're supposed to be blitzing off the edge, they're going to be blitzing off the edge. This team is fundamentally sound from every aspect. Scheme-wise, they're very simple, but they have the guys in there that can make those plays.
For Coach Huff, it comes back to the consistency and the talent on the field.
They have good players. You got good players, all the plays work a lot better. And they've got good players on every level. And that's where you can kind of separate the good teams from the extremely consistent teams is, on the D-line, they've got multiple good players. Number 99, I've said it before, is probably one of the best D linemen in Group 5. They've got two, defensive ends that are really good. Their backers are stout, and because of that, they have guys on the back end that are in position to make plays. So it's a combination of consistency and scheme, and then having really good players.